Welcome to Spirit, Purpose, and Energy. Happy 2017. I think it's really fun that today's show is exercising the law of attraction, since most of us always want to exercise our bodies, but we rarely think of exercise as a mental and emotional game. But I wrote a chapter in Fit to Love called Happiness Requires Mental Fitness. And people don't understand what mental fitness means. So training our brains, training our focal point, training our stories or not having a story, and training the lack of commentary that we have from day to day is really important to learn how to be in alignment with that which you want and to allow yourself to feel happy. So I hope you enjoyed today's show and happy 2017. Today's show, exercising the law of attraction. First, I want to acknowledge the biggest influence and resource for all law of attraction work, which would be Jerry and Esther Hicks and Abraham-Hicks.com. So any information you want, if you just want more and more of this, Abraham-Hicks.com is the place to go. I have been studying the law of attraction from Jerry and Esther Hicks for about 10 years, maybe more than that, maybe 12. And without a doubt, it's the work that has transformed my life in every way. And while I continue to learn and grow and build on this work and deepen the work that I'm doing and figure out how this plus other work goes together, this is something that I really want to share with you because it's happening whether you know it or not. You might not, quote unquote, believe in the law of attraction, but it exists whether you're deliberate or not. You're going to attract whatever you're vibrating. Whatever you are, whatever you think, and however you feel, you will then create a signal that the universe matches. It's just that simple. The law of attraction says that which is like unto itself is drawn. And this is a pretty simple statement, but it defines really the most powerful law in the universe that affects everything. And nothing exists that is unaffected by the law of attraction. The second law, which is the science of deliberate creation, says that which I give thought to and that which I believe or expect is, which means that what you get what you think about whether you want it or not, and you get whatever you believe. You're going to reaffirm what it is you believe by attracting what you believe. And when you look around and ask yourself, well, why do some people attract other things? Well, they probably have different beliefs and they have different feelings. And so when it comes to the law of attraction, there's two main components that send out signals. Your emotions and your vibration, they're the same thing, is the signal. It's that radio signal that sends out to the universe, this is where I'm vibrating and this is what attracts like things. That can be stimulated, generated, and created from both your thoughts and your feelings. But when it comes to thoughts, you have your subconscious thoughts and your conscious thoughts. For today's show, we are going to focus solely on your conscious mind. 88% of your mind is subconscious. It means you're not hearing the thoughts and beliefs and therefore feelings that create your experience. Now, you may be feeling some of the feelings, but have no idea why they're there. Your subconscious mind is beneath the surface. It's the basement of your mind. And while we can pull from it and we can change it and we can shift it, we're not going to deal with that today. We've talked about the subconscious mind on a few Thoughtful Thursdays. We're going to continue to talk about it on future shows, but I want to empower you right now, today, this minute, to shift around your conscious mind. The 12% of the thoughts and beliefs that you hear in your head, that you know that you have. So this show is about exercising the law of attraction. So first, let's establish it's happening whether you want it to or not. And if you're on board with that because you're listening to the show, now you get to say, well, how can I change it? If I'm attracting all the things in my life, how can I shift it? First, you want to become aware of your thoughts, not in an obsessive kind of way, but in an awareness. How am I talking to myself? What do I believe? What am I saying to people? What's the story that I'm telling, both to myself and to others, that is creating a vibration that's attracting these situations, people, and experiences to me? When you start to become aware of your thoughts and the stories that you're telling, you then get to change it. And just like an exercise, that's why the title of today's show is Exercising the Law of Attraction, is because it is a practice. It's a practice of, if you took two weights in your hands, let's say your left hand had a 5-pound weight and your right hand had a 10-pound weight, and you equally exercise them, which one would become stronger? Well, probably your right hand, because it has 10 pounds and your left hand has 5 pounds. So the more you exercise something, the stronger it gets, and then the easier it is for that muscle to lift things, to carry things, to hold things. It becomes really attuned to harder work. Now, when it comes to your mind, it's also a practice. It's a practice to choose your thoughts and choose your point of focus and to look for what's going well or what's not going well. So some of the recommendations I'm going to make today come from the book Ask and It Is Given. It's one of Jerry and Esther Hicks' books, one of their New York Times best-selling books that you can find on Hay House or Abraham-Hicks.com or Amazon. And in Ask and It Is Given, there are 22 exercises. Now, I'm not recommending that you try every single exercise. However, a lot of them are really fun and very powerful. But to make this really simple, I'm going to focus on one, and that one is the first process, which is called Rampage of Appreciation. Appreciation is one of the highest vibrational emotions we have. It's up there with love. When we're appreciating, we're loving. We're at a place where there's no resistance and we have a very high vibration. And appreciation is a practice. Think about what happens to you when something bad happens. Maybe you've had a bad experience at a restaurant, or a friend and you got in a fight, or your lover or spouse and you had a fight. What happens next? Most of the time, a lot of people will turn around and repeat that story and repeat that emotion 5 or 10 times. They'll tell it to friends, they'll repeat it to coworkers, they may have a therapy session about it, and we get really entrenched and anchored in those negative thoughts, feelings, beliefs, and stories because we tell so many people. When was the last time you had an impulse to pick up the phone? Was that impulse driven by a positive story or a negative story? I'm going to guess that 9 times out of 10, it's a negative story because you want to release it. You want to talk about it. You want to work through it. And so we use that audio processing tool to emote that emotion. But the problem with emoting it multiple times is that it becomes a practiced feeling and a practiced story and a very strong vibration from which you're attracting. So those situations may be happening over and over again because it's the practiced belief and expectation. So when it comes to Rampage of Appreciation, it's the number one simplest exercise that you can do to start to change and shift your point of attraction and the strongest vibration that you're putting out there, and you're releasing resistance and expectation of negative things happening. I have been playing the Rampage of Appreciation game in multiple forms for about at least 8 years. It may be longer. And it's probably the single most effective tool and easiest tool to share with others and have them see a response, almost an immediate response. I've got several people who have played this game with me, one in fact whose life looks nothing like it did before we started playing the game. And she has over and over again thanked me for the positive change in her life that came from this practice. So I wanted to title today's show The Best Law of Attraction Practice You Could Do, but then I thought to label it the best is oversimplifying what may work for one person versus another. It's the easiest way, I think, to start changing and shifting your point of attraction and to being aware and conscious of the use of law of attraction in your life. And so that's why today I'm going to recommend that if no other practice, if no other thing calls out to you and interests you in terms of trying or reading, just try this practice. It's called Rampage of Appreciation, and there are several ways that you can start to implement it. But before we get to that, I do need to take a break to thank our sponsors. Do you love listening to audiobooks? Or do you think you'd read more if you could listen to them? Well, for you listeners, Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to give you the opportunity to check out their service. With over 150,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. To download your free audiobook today, go to fit2lovebook.com. That's FIT, the number 2, LOVE, book.com to get your free audiobook with your free 30-day trial to Audible. If you're unhappy with your trial and you don't want to continue, you get to cancel before the 30 days are over and keep your free audiobook. It is 100% risk-free. So go to fit2lovebook.com. That's FIT, the number 2, LOVEBOOK.com to get your free audiobook today. Rampage of Appreciation. The first way to do Rampage of Appreciation would be to write it down. I remember back when I was having contrast and conflict with certain relationships that because I started to expect it, I expected the conflict, it kept happening. So what I started to do was, even in my fit of rage and anger and frustration, I would take a piece of paper and I would write down all the positive aspects of that person and our relationship, because you can always find and focus on what's going well. And that exercise would start to soften the emotion and transform that emotion from, let's say, anger to neutral, and then maybe even hopeful, which on the emotional scale in Law of Attraction means you're heading up the scale. So we're already releasing resistance and transforming our point of attraction. So you can write it down, and writing is powerful because it definitely connects the brain and the motor skills, and you're seeing it and you're reading it and you're thinking it. So there's on several levels, you're anchoring that into you. But I'm going to recommend that you not only write it, but you do it in an auditorial way. For about 8 years, I have been doing what I call the Rampage of Appreciation game, and it's verbal. I've been doing it on the phone with a friend every day. And the point of the game is so that you are speaking it and thinking it, and you're hearing it, and you're able to hear yourself, and you're putting it out there into the world, and someone else is witnessing it. And the point of it is to milk the good stuff. So at the beginning of this show, I gave you a scenario of having something bad happen. And what's the impulse? The impulse is to want to talk about it, to tell people about it, and to continually sort of complain about it. And what I want to encourage you to try is the opposite of that, milking the good stuff. When we get really excited about something, I'm sure you tell somebody, and I'm sure that story does exist, but do you tell it as often as you tell the bad stories? Or are you really, really good at the bad stories? If you are someone who is a complainer and you complain all the time about the bad things that are happening, and then you're frustrated because you think so many bad things happen to you, maybe now you're starting to make the connection as to why bad things are happening to you. So to change that, we're going to start milking the good stuff. We're going to take those good feelings and we're going to draw them out as long as we can to continue the good feeling place. Because once you do that, that becomes your point of attraction, your dominant practiced energy, and your body is used to feeling better than feeling worse. So the verbal game goes like this. In my world, you don't have to actually talk to somebody live. In fact, I prefer to do it on a voicemail. The friend of mine who moved from Los Angeles to Miami, because of the time difference, we would have a hard time connecting with each other, and it left a perfect scenario of us leaving voicemails. And back in the day, for about 6 years, she and I were the only two who were doing this game. And in the spirit of Rampage of Appreciation, every time I would manifest something, I would call again. There were days I was calling 3 and 4 times a day to milk the good stuff. Every time something good would happen, I would amplify and elongate those feelings by talking about it, by sharing it. So for years, my point of attraction kept shifting. in getting higher and higher. And the more I did it, the more I had reason to be happy and to rampage about it, so to speak. Now the game is transformed into, I probably do this with 4 or 5 people, and some of them leave me multiple messages, and sometimes I'll leave them multiple messages. So my day literally starts out with probably an hour back and forth of me listening and leaving messages for people to appreciate and to point my focus in a direction where I'm looking at something from the point of appreciation. And I'll give you an example. I did a presentation. I talked about this on one of the shows I did with Carol Chanel, and it was about how to feel fabulous forever. I had done a presentation at a hospital, and it was a Christian Catholic hospital, I believe. And the presentation was on shifting from negative to positive beliefs. And before I had gone into this hospital, I didn't realize how Christian it was. And I wasn't given any instruction on how to talk to them or what to keep in mind in terms of any religious affiliation. I just gave the presentation as I would give to anybody, anywhere, regardless of their religious or spiritual point of view, because it's a group. And what I quickly learned from the first presentation is that the people in the room wanted me to be speaking in a certain way, in a certain, let's say, point of view that they have, which happens to be inclusive of Christianity and Catholicism. And had someone asked me to do that, I wouldn't have necessarily had a problem transferring the language into that language. But because I didn't, I just gave the presentation as I normally do. And what happened was I got negative feedback. The feedback was that they expected it to be more God-centered and more, I guess, Jesus-centered than it was. And so they felt a disconnect. And while normally I would have taken that pretty hard, I was definitely sad and disappointed that the information that I had to present wasn't received because it wasn't given in a way they could understand or hear it. There were limitations and triggers for them. I was sad, but I left that meeting and immediately called my friends to play this game because I wanted to work through the feelings. So I acknowledged that I was sad. I was acknowledged that I wish I would have been able to present in a way that they could hear. But at the same time, I looked for what to appreciate. And there were so many things to appreciate. I was so appreciative that that one of the people spoke up, and she told me how she was feeling and what she was expecting, and I found that to be so valuable. I had presented 3 times that day at the hospital, and after every presentation, I played the game again and again, and by the end of the day, I was literally so happy that that incident happened because it gave me so much clarity and preparation for the next time, and I was able to understand and not take it personally that person was disappointed and frustrated and disconnected and not really liking me. And that was okay because I chose to appreciate it and find ways to appreciate it. So the Rampage of Appreciation not only is outlining the things that are going well in your life and in your day, it's also an exercise to take whatever contrast comes up for you and transform it. Take the good that comes out of it because there's always something good. Some contrast that happens for you is information. It's a confirmation that whatever's happening is something you don't want. And once you're very clear about what it is that you don't want, you can refocus your attention and your energy on looking for and creating what it is that you do want. So there's always a way to take appreciation in every situation and transform that energy. So exercising the law of attraction really means becoming conscious and deliberate about the focus that you have, the stories that you're telling, and the emotion that you're perpetuating. And it's fine. I'm not telling you to deny the emotions that you're having. My first call after that situation was very much to acknowledge that I was sad. I had a little sadness because I wanted to inspire people. And the message I got was that I didn't inspire them. I frustrated them because, again, they were looking for a certain point of view for the presentation that I did not A, know, and B, I wouldn't have done it anyway. Well, I would have done it if it was a one-on-one person because I would have wanted to speak the language that they spoke, but the presentation wasn't designed that way. So I was going to give it in the most neutral, all-inclusive, not exclusive belief or viewpoint that they were asking for. So Rampage of Appreciation can also be a gratitude journal or an appreciation journal. So if you don't want to speak it, you're not ready for that yet, although I think speaking it is the most powerful way to activate the feelings. You could, at the end of the day, take a piece of paper or a journal and write down at least 3 things that went well for you or that you can appreciate. And I promise you can always find 3 of them. First of all, if you have a job, you can say, I appreciate that I'm employed. If you are healthy, you can appreciate that you have your health. If you have a roof over your head, you can appreciate that you have a roof over your head. You can start to look for everything and acknowledge and amplify everything in your life that's already working and start exercising that ability. Because if your habit is to complain and always look for what's not going well, you really can't be surprised when you're attracting negative things all the time. Because you're not practicing the positive. You're practicing looking at what's not working. So in order to shift that, let's start exercising that positive muscle of appreciation and gratitude and look for and focus on. It's like a camera. If you take a camera and zoom in on something, you're only seeing a very small part of the wider, broader picture. I want you to take your camera lens of your eyes and broaden it. Don't zoom out. Don't zoom in. Zoom out and see things differently. See things in a new way that have you appreciate and feel better. So just to review, you can do the Rampage of Appreciation by writing a list of things you appreciate about a certain person or situation or something that's going on. You can find a partner or a friend or even leave voicemails for yourself. Call yourself if you just want to start doing this right now and you don't know who to turn to in order to practice or play this game. Call yourself and leave yourself voicemails. That might be even more powerful because you're listening to yourself appreciate and milk the good stuff. And also, next time something really good happens, write about it. Call someone, call 5 people and milk it. Get comfortable enjoying the positive feelings and the good things that happen. And the last recommendation that you could do is writing a gratitude journal or an appreciation journal at the end of the day. Rather than going to bed thinking about what you didn't do and all the things you got to do tomorrow and how things didn't go the way you wanted them to, reframe that. Refocus, appreciate and acknowledge what happened today, what can I appreciate about my life, and you might even get much better sleep as well as you're going to start vibrating higher and attracting better things. If you enjoyed today's show, I'd love to hear about it. If you have a law of attraction appreciation game that you'd like to share that I didn't cover, I would also love to hear about that. So come on over to fit2love.tv and let me know about it. I love all different ideas about how to get more appreciation and higher vibrating, better feeling things into your life, because the more that you exercise it, the easier it gets and the better you'll be. Thank you again for tuning in to Spirit, Purpose, and Energy. If you're inspired and want more, come on over to fit2love.tv and check out our Freedom Fridays or find us on iTunes. More at Fit to Love, physical, emotional, and spiritual fitness for the happy life you deserve.